Okay, so back for episode 3 of this pool deck table build, and now we've moved outside. It's time to start putting things together, and as you can see, the centre sections that go around the trees is starting to take shape, and I'm sure it makes a lot more sense now as to the methodology and process behind why and how I had to make it this way. So I've just placed those sections on the table around the trees and butted them up together just so you can get a sense for how it would look, but the final product will have a slight gap in between them because the actual width of the slats don't divide equally into the length of the table, so obviously they need to be spaced out accordingly so it's all even across the whole tabletop. So the next task was a bit of a process. As I might have mentioned earlier, the slats that came from the timber mill weren't all cut evenly, so there was some thicker than others, which meant that the rail that I put on earlier for the slats to span across couldn't be set at different heights, obviously, which meant that the thicker slats would stick up or finish higher than the actual tabletop itself. So in order to repair that, I needed to go along and mark every single one and then check it out on either end so that it would fit over the rail, and then the top of the board would finish flush with the actual top of the table frame, which is the surface that I'm cutting on now. And obviously that would be the desired result because you need the tabletop to be flush across all surfaces and all parts. Okay, so that check out at either end has been done and time for the test fit, and seems to have worked pretty well. So that's what I'm talking about earlier, when everything needs to finish flush. There's just a close-up of the checkout process so you can see, and like I said, every single one of them was a different depth and a different height because all the slats were different thicknesses. So another process, or progress I should say, shot of the table coming along, and now we can see those sections that were effectively the offcuts that were going to be reused for the circular section to infill that gap. This was me just checking those out, and then you'll see later on what needed to be done to support those with this steel bar. So I'm just marking out the position of this steel bar because it needed to be checked into the rail deep enough so that when the infill piece that runs up to the circular section was checked out and finished flush with the table, that it was sitting at the right height to support it without being too low. And as you'll see in a moment, I'll give you a much closer view of what that looks like. So I'm just doing a first check or test fit here, but I think it's still a bit too high and some more needs to come out, and it's a little bit tight as well. So just take that out and take some more material just so it's still snug but not going to move around. So just moving on to the other side of the table now to check out some of the other ones. And there were 12 of these in total because there was 6 each side of the table which needed to be done. So 6 bars, which meant 2 sides of the table, 12 checkouts. think the best thing about this bar idea was the fact that it was able to not only support the piece that I have in my hand now, but also the circular section of the piece that passes around the tree. So it was kind of like supporting a lot of things when you think about both sides of the table. And the moment you've all been waiting for, here's a shot of the bar in position, all checked out and all sitting in position, ready to do its job. And this also gives you a great example of what I was talking about, of how it doesn't just support that piece, but it also supports the circular piece passing around the tree too. So all that said and done, everything's checked out and it is on to undercoat. So it was just a case of setting up a bit of a paint station with a big drop sheet and some areas where I could just really paint all this in bulk. Lucky for me, the weather was very warm and it allowed everything to dry quite quickly just sitting out in the sun, so it was good. And now the first top coat going on. The brief wanted it to be blue, so that was what needed to be done. And as you can see, I've got some sort of weird system going on, but it seems to work and yeah, coming along nicely. And with the painting all done, it was now time to start finalising the assembly of this table and putting all the slats on, which meant determining what the spacing was going to be between each slat. So here I'm just placing them on, making sure that everything's still fitting as it should, and then we could work out the maths for what the spacing needed to be. So that pretty much wraps up episode 3, everyone. Be sure to check out episode 4, which will go through the final finishing stages of this pool deck table build and also show you the final finished result. So thank you for watching, and don't forget, for all my future updates, to subscribe to my channel by hitting the notification bell. I'll talk to you in the next one.